Ayabasare gave him a stiff smile. She had been waiting for him to start coughing, to sweat, to grab his stomach, but nothing happened. Panic started to creep in. The special mixture was supposed to work fast. Why was Jide still alive? Before she could think further, Chief Adiwale stood up, brushing the crumbs off his agbada. "Basare," he said softly, "I want to take you somewhere tomorrow. Not this buka, not the street, somewhere quiet. Will you come?" Her heart skipped. "Me?" "Yes, you," he said, smiling. "Don't tell me no." She hesitated, then nodded. Something about the way he looked at her made her forget the fear creeping inside. Later that day, Jide finally stood, still smiling. "See you tomorrow, Mama Basire. Don't forget, my breakfast must always be free." As he walked out, Ayabasa gripped the counter so hard her knuckles turned white. She had failed. And if Jide lived to talk, he could destroy everything. That night, she couldn't sleep. She tossed and turned on her bamboo mat, thinking of two things: Chief Adiwale's invitation, and how to make sure Jide never came back to the buka again. The next morning, she woke up before dawn. She didn't light the fire. She didn't even open the buka. Instead, she picked up a small calabash hidden under her bed, one she hadn't touched in years. "This time," she whispered to herself, "no mistakes." She poured a dark powder into a cup and began to chant softly, her voice low and eerie. Whatever she was preparing this time wasn't just for Jide. It was for anyone who dared to get in the way of her food, her business, or her chief. The next day came with a strange stillness. The usually noisy buka stayed closed, and the smell of cooking never filled the air. People knocked on the wooden counter, grumbling, but Ayabasare ignored them. Today was not for cooking. Today was for setting things right. When Jide arrived, confused, she was waiting outside. "Follow me," she said curtly. He frowned. "Where? Do you want your free food or not?" That shut him up. He followed her through the narrow alley behind the buka, grinning like a fool. But there was something in her eyes, a coldness, that made his steps falter. At the end of the alley stood a small abandoned shed, one most people avoided. Ayabasare opened the rusty door and stepped in. The place smelled of herbs, smoke, and something else Jide couldn't name. "Sit," she commanded. Jide hesitated but obeyed. She poured him a small calabash cup of palm wine, muttering under her breath as she stirred it. "Drink," she said. He laughed. "Ah, Mama Basare, this is how you treat your VIP customers. Palm wine in the morning." "Drink," she repeated, her voice like steel. He took a sip. It was sweet, too sweet. Before he could put the cup down, his hands began to shake. His smile faded. What did you put in this?" he stammered, clutching his stomach. Ayabsa watched him calmly, her face blank. "I warned you, Jide. My secret is mine alone." Minutes later, Jide slumped to the ground, silent. Ayabsa stood over him, breathing hard. She had done what she had to do. Her buka, and her future with Chief, was safe. By evening, the buka was open again. The pots were steaming, the customers were back, and no one asked about Jide. When Chief Adiwale arrived, he smiled when he saw her. "Are you ready?" he asked. "Yes," she said softly, her face glowing. As she washed her hands, she caught her reflection in the metal pot, and for the first time, she saw herself clearly. Her dirty wrapper, her sweaty face, her hands stained from years of cooking. But Chief didn't seem to care. He took her hand as they left the buka together, and the customers stared, whispering. For the first time in years, Ayabasare felt like a woman, not just a food seller. Chief Adiwale drove through the city with one hand on the steering wheel and the other resting lightly on Ayabasare's knee. The tinted windows of his SUV kept the outside world away, but inside, her heart pounded loudly in her chest. She had never been in such a car before. The leather seats smelled expensive, the air conditioning was cool, and the music was soft and slow. For a moment, she forgot about her buka, her secret, and even Jide lying cold in that shed. "Where are we going, Chief?" she asked, her voice quiet. "You'll see," he said with a small smile. Minutes later, they pulled up at one of his hotels. The security men quickly opened the gate, nodding respectfully. Chief parked and led her inside through a private entrance, away from prying eyes. In the suite upstairs, the air smelled of perfume and polished wood. There was a table set with food, wine, and fresh flowers. "For you," Chief said softly. "You deserve to eat like a queen for once." No one had ever said anything like that to her. No one had ever looked at her the way he did, like she was more than just the woman behind the smoky buka. They sat and ate together. For the first time, she used cutlery, struggling at first until Chief laughed and helped her hold the fork properly. The sound of his laughter made her chest feel warm. "I like you, Basire," he said suddenly, his tone serious now. "Not just your food. You. There's something about you that feels real. I don't get that often." Her breath caught. No man had ever spoken to her this way. But as she looked into his eyes, guilt twisted in her stomach. He had no idea who she really was, what she had done to protect her secret. Later, when Chief dropped her back at the buka, she stood outside for a long time after he drove away. Her heart was torn between two worlds, the dirty, dangerous world of her buka, and the strange, beautiful world Chief was offering her. But she knew one thing for sure, she could not afford to lose him. The following week, Aya Basira's buka seemed busier than ever. People poured in like ants, eager for her food. Her pots emptied faster than she could refill them. Yet, every time she smiled at a customer, her mind drifted to Chief Adiwale, to the hotel suite, his laughter, the way his hand had lingered on hers. But she was not the only one thinking about him. Across town, in a lavish mansion, Chief's wife sat in her dressing gown, staring at her untouched plate of breakfast. "Where has he been going every afternoon?" she muttered to herself. Chief had changed. He came home later, smiling for no reason, humming songs like a man in love. She picked up her phone and dialed a number. "Follow him today," she instructed her driver. "Find out where he goes. And don't come back until you know everything." Back at the buka, Chief walked in just before closing time. His agbada was replaced with a simple shirt and trousers, but he still looked like wealth itself.